you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about artifacts, how to manage them, how to clean them up, and what you should be looking for when upgrading. If you download Raid Shadow Legends using my link, I'm actually going to start you off with the free legendary champion on day 1, and then at level 10, level 20, and level 30, you'll get yourself an epic. That is 4 amazing champions that you can get just by downloading using my link. Artifacts are super important because this is how we make our champions. This is how they get strong. This is how we actually get use of them, because you can have an amazing champion, but if you don't have great artifacts on them, then it's really not useful for you, right? So there is a big difference between early game artifact management and end game artifact management. So I want to keep this as simple as I can for you guys. Let's talk about early game first. When you are first starting off, chances are you are not getting amazing gear. You are getting your common, your uncommon, and ideally your rare. And you're going to be upgrading your rare. You're not going to be upgrading your commons or your uncommons. I never suggest that. At least your rare, and that's where your focus will be until you get to the epic. So while you have your rare, you are going to be focusing on sets. When I say sets, what I mean is this says set life 2, set offense 2. So you need 2 of them equipped to a champion to complete that set. That will give you that bonus HP plus 15% or the attack plus 15%. And the reason for that is that as you're getting your gear, and like I said, you're starting off with your rare. If you look at it, it only has 2 of those stats on it. So when you're starting off and upgrading, there's not that many chances for it to go anywhere. So you are going to get more stats out of actually completing your set. Now, eventually, you are going to approach that point in the game where you don't want to use rare artifacts anymore. You're making that switch over to using your epic and legendary. And now this is when the sets aren't as important, but instead you want to focus on stats. So rather than trying to complete a day's set, which you need 4 of in order to actually get that 25% chance to place them to sleep. Say you're not worrying about that, but instead you're going to hunt speed, for example. You would go through, find your artifacts that have speed on them, and instead you may use that. So that is where your switch happens and you'll focus on stats versus sets. As a player, when we are looking at the different stat sets that they have, this is something else that you will shift and change as you go. When we are starting this game off, we're kind of stuck with what we can get, and that typically is going to be a lot of that life set and that offense set. But later on, as you go through the game, you're going to notice the ones that are way more important, and you probably will not be using these ones as often, so you can be a little more picky when you are selling them. You might hang on to something if it's rolled really well or if there is speed on it. If there's not, it's something that you might just go ahead and sell because it's not going to make sense to keep. There are some really great stats in this game. Of course, speed. Speed will always be king, so chances are that is one that's going to stick around for you. And as you get into the game and you get more of these different types of gear sets, like regeneration or stone skin, divine speed, these ones are all going to be really good, and chances are that's where you're going to put your focus. So next, let's talk about what are the actual stats that you can get on your artifacts. One thing that you want to keep in mind is there are certain stats you will only be able to get on certain artifacts. So an easy way to break this down is to refer to this chart here. You have your weapon, your helmet, your shield, gauntlet, chestplate, and boots. One very important thing is ideally on your gauntlet, your chestplate, and your boots, you want to avoid flat stats and you want to go for percent stats. There are some exceptions to this, like boots, for example, you want speed typically. So that is the one exception for a flat stat. And potentially on a chestplate, maybe you'll go accuracy. But typically otherwise on the gauntlet and chestplate, it is going to be percents. There's also certain stats you can only get on certain gear. So for example, looking at the gauntlets, that is the only thing that you will be able to get that crit rate percent on. You will not find crit rate percent on your chestplate or your boots. Same thing with your crit damage. These are exclusive to your gauntlets. And then your accuracy and resistance, exclusive to your chestplate, and speed, exclusive to your boots. You'll see in terms of your HP, defense, that you will find across the board on those 3. And then with something like your weapon, your helmet, or your shield, the main stat will always be the same. Your weapon will always be a flat attack. Your helmet will always be a flat HP. And then your shield will always be a flat defense. And then on there, you have the substats. So this chart breaks it down for you and it shows you everything that you have. So that is one thing that you want to keep in mind when you're upgrading, so that you do potentially avoid wasting silver. Don't upgrade things that have like flat HP, flat defense, flat attack on those bottom 3. Now that you know what you're looking for, we need to go ahead and clean things up. This is the best way that I suggest and the easiest way. Select your filter, go down into your rank and rarity, and select the things that you do not need. So for myself, for example, I am not keeping anything that's below an epic, legendary, or mythical, so I will first select all of these. It's going to go ahead, select them all here. I'll click sell, select all, and be able to sell everything, and you'll see how much silver I'm getting back just from that. So I don't need those anymore. I can sell them. The next thing I want to do is get rid of the flat stats I don't need. So I will select my gauntlet, my chestplate, and my boots, and then I will go down into my my primary stats, and then I will select my HP, my attack, and my defense. So I don't have anything in here, which is good. I've recently done a cleanup. It's not something I need to worry about, but if anything popped up here, I would go ahead and sell it. Remember, you don't want to waste too much time wasting silver on upgrading your 1-star, 2-star, or 3-star artifacts. Instead, save it for your 4-star, 5-star, or 6-star ones. That's where you want to spend time upgrading them as soon as you can farm it. Subscribe to the channel so that you are able to see some of my dungeon guides. I will be making those coming soon. Next, let's talk about upgrading your gear and your artifacts. There are certain times you actually want to do upgrades if you can. This includes things like during clan versus clan, or if there is an event going on. Watch the events, keep an eye on it to see if something is coming up. For example, there's a gear enhancement event going on right now, so this is the perfect time to actually upgrade artifacts. They will also have another event going on, and that is going to be the free gear removal. This is also the perfect time to actually go through your artifacts and clean them up, because it's a great time to actually re-gear some champions. Chances are you still have old artifacts sitting on your champions from early on that could probably use an upgrade, so if you can time it during any of these events, that is the best way to do so. Talking about these gear enhancement events, have you guys been going for Esme the Dancer? Are you working on her fusion? I know we have 3 gear events going on. I'm trying, but I'm not sure yet if I'll be able to finish it. When upgrading your artifacts, you now want to pay attention to which substats are actually increasing, because you are going to have your damage dealers, your supports, or your HP. There are certain stats that, of course, you're going to want to look for. So if you are trying to build somebody who is a damage dealer, you're going to want to take a look at that gear and see if what you're upgrading makes sense. If you're upgrading and it's going into your crit rate or your crit damage and speed, that's great. But if you're upgrading somebody who is an HP type and everything is upgrading into an attack stat or a crit damage stat that you really don't need, then you might want to consider selling that gear. While we're talking about artifacts, I think it's important to mention accessories as well. Do not forget about your accessories. This is a great way to get bonus stats onto your champions. And again, there's going to be certain stats you're looking for, and this is also something else that I do need to clean up. I think a lot of new players may actually overlook this because you can only equip the accessories as you are ascending your champions. So for example, I have no ascensions on Blizzard, so I can only really equip a ring. And then eventually, once I ascend to 5-star and 6-star, I will get more of those things I'm able to equip. But this is another great way to actually increase the stats of your champions. So again, with your accessories, you are going to want to know what you can actually get on them. So looking at your ring, your amulet, and your banner, if you're looking at your rings, that will be that flat HP, attack, and defense. But amulet is the only one that you can get that crit damage % as a primary stat. And then for your banner, that is the only way you'll get your accuracy or resistance, again, as a primary stat. Then you have all the substats that can get in there, and then you have ascended bonuses. But really, you'll be paying attention to the primary stats first, and then you can go ahead and take a look at the substats you're getting, and again, if that makes sense for the champion you're putting it on. I can tell you guys right now, looking at my gear, I know I have ones that need to be sold, and this is a good way for me to actually get some of my silver back. But looking at my gear, I know there was some that I upgraded early on because, like I said, it was all I really had. What I was going with, but looking at it now, there's things that I definitely don't want to hang on to and don't need to keep, but I also need to re-gear a lot of my champions. They are sitting on gear that honestly probably need some big improvements. Cece, for example, I know I can get her faster. I probably should be able to get her faster. Even my Uugo, I've taken all the gear off. I need to figure out what I actually want to put on her, so I need to make some big adjustments and some upgrades. But I do think I am going to do this all in a separate video, so I will do some upgrading. Be sure you subscribe so you're able to see my gear grind. That is it for today's video. I hope that this guide helped you out in cleaning up your artifacts and improving your champion's stats. I want you guys to comment down below and let me know what is your favorite gear set. And don't forget that as a new player, you can use my link either clicking it down in the description box or scanning the QR code on the screen to download Raid, and that is going to get you 4 champions. Once you reach level 30, you will have all 4 of them, starting off with that legendary on day 1. Now that you've downloaded using my link, you want to make sure that you are entering a new player code. You do have to enter this within 72 hours of actually downloading the game. The code that I suggest using is Monkey King. This is going to get you Sun Wukong, who is a legendary champion who is very good, but only here for a limited time. So you're going to want to make sure that you claim that. If you enjoyed this video, be sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Next level.